Hey, welcome back to episode 27. 27. I can't do that much with my hands. 27. Nice. I like that. So a little bit lighter of a topic today. We had to delay this shenanigans for the week just due to us moving around and got some other stuff to do. So we thought we would talk about some of our favorite lesser known toy brands. And things like that. So, Barker, do you want to show us what you brought for show and tell?
I didn't actually. We have some around the house, and I didn't take the time. Addie probably hid them somewhere. But the company that I am going to talk about today is behind me. And if you're not familiar with my model classroom, this is actually a playset that I took a photo of with my iPhone and then blew it up so that I could put myself in it, because that's the way I play today. And so the company I'm talking about today is Playmobil. Playmobil is kind of like everybody's second favorite blockish figurine company from Europe. So it's a German company. I don't know how much you want me to go into depth right now, but a German company, and Playmobil itself, it's part of a larger conglomerate that makes. It started by making casket handles and casket ornaments, and now they make water efficient planter boxes as well. But they also make Playmobil toys for little boys and girls.
Can we just talk for a moment about how your model classroom, this playset, has a tomahawk on the desk? I just want to know what the students are learning.
It is specifically a history class. So apparently nothing says history like a tomahawk, and then there's two different helmets. So there's a knight helmet over this way right here on the bottom, and then there's one over there. There's a gladiator helmet on the bust, and there is a collection of arrowheads and like skin scrapers from like caveman tools as well. Oh, and it's also white. It's supposed to be like a shark tooth like spearhead, but Addie, my daughter, was using it as a quill instead. So she automatically, made it something less aggressive.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad. And if you ever need to do math, you got that abacus right behind you, which will help out a ton.
It's base 12, though.
I know. That'll throw me off. I can't handle that.
It's for counting hours on the clock.
So I chose, I'll talk a little bit about, I chose Bandai. And they are a Japanese company. And the reason I chose them was because when I was a kid, my all-time probably favorite TV show growing up was Power Rangers. And Bandai was the one who made like Power Rangers toys and Power Rangers like video games and like everything like that. Ironically, just a fun fact, if you have like younger kids or like you have like little brothers and sisters that watch like Power Rangers, like go back and watch the original ones. I think they're on Netflix, actually. You can watch them. You watch them and they'll be like intrigued, but watch them as an adult and it is literally the most genius scheme for writing a TV show. Something happens. The woman sends the bad guy down. They beat up the bad guy in their regular clothes. She throws her stick down. Bad guy grows big. They morph into their Power Rangers. They get the oh man, now I'm having a
Zords.
Thank you. They get the Zords, and they make see, I'm drawing a blank. What do they make? What's the guy called? This is so it shows what a fan I was.
Sorry, my brain, as soon as we went Zords, I was like Voltron.
Yep. Yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Oh, come on, Turner.
The Megazord?
I want to say that sounds right, but Zordon was the name. Yeah, because Zordon was Megazord. So, yeah. But anyway, that's why I chose Bandai. So we're going to talk about, so Bandai's a Japanese company. It starts after World War II, and they are a textile company originally. And the interesting thing about it was that textiles were actually dropping And so I'm gonna say this wrong. Probably it's Naharu Yamashina. Basically worked at his brother-in-law's like textile company, and he was like, "Oh my god, like there's a market for toys. I'm gonna start trying to make toys." And so he convinces his brother-in-law to let him have like a section of the company, let him run it. And he originally has Bandai, which gets shortened to Bandai in 1961. You want to go into play? Does that go ahead? And, you did your start of Playmobil, so I guess I can go ahead and a little bit more. They make so the original thing is they make this thing called the rhythm ball, which is basically just like a ball that goes through. And then they make a metallic toy, which is a reproduction of a B-26. Kind of ironic that they're making American bombers after what had happened in World War II, but I guess that will happen. So they, in 1955, they get to building and they get a little bit more of a company. And really their first like products are cars. And they build a bunch of different car kits. They have kits to make the cars. They have like making model cars themselves. And we're not talking like Hot Wheels like this big. We're talking like, metallic cars a little bit bigger. So that's kind of their history up through what people really wouldn't know about them.
Well, Playmobil is kind of, the reason I know about it is that like we had family that like gave us their Playmobil when their kids got too big for them, and then we saw them, and then like there was one store in Longview that would carry them, and it was Bob's Sporting Goods. It was literally like a hunting store.
Nice.
But like they carried Playmobil, and Playmobil today has produced 3 billion figures. Like they've sold 3 billion figures. Wow. And they have over between 30 and 40 different themes of like sets. And one of the things, reading a lot of articles, people in the US are like, it kind of always kind of gets put in the category of obscure European toys in America. And I think today, like they've started been carrying more and more by like Target and some more mainstreamed companies, but they don't carry like a whole aisle like they do for Lego.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of been overshadowed by Lego because we'll get to that here in a little bit. But the reason that the company Bredstatter, the owner, like went to this toy designer named Hans Beck and said, "Hey, I want you to start designing a toy. We need to compete. We need something small. We need to like make something of our own, like a play system. A toy system." And so Hans Beck develops a patent in 1972 for essentially an open bottom. It's like this really long, obscure, like random code for the patent. And it says like open bottom because the chest of Playmobil is open so you can fold their legs up. And eventually, what really kind of pushes it into production is that there's an oil shortage in 1973. And they started producing the Playmobil figures because they used less plastic than hula hoops. And so the original line of Playmobil came out in sets of, there was 3 different styles. There was knights, Native Americans, and construction workers. And that's the great thing about like
I feel like that's a bad joke. Like it needs to be a punchline. Like a Native American and a construction worker walk into a bar. But I don't feel like there's a good punchline.
It's like one policeman short of the Village People.
Yeah. Exactly.
But so like as you can see them on the screen there, like their legs, they can sit with their legs straight out. They have no knees, and then they have no elbows. Yep. The original ones had no elbows. Their arms were just straight, and then the wrist, there was no articulation. Like there was no rotation in the wrist. That comes in I think 82. Okay. So the original, and that's like I actually know that at home at my mom and dad's, we have some that are so old that like that's how you can tell like the era is if the hand is the same color as the sleeve and there's no like it's not a separate mold. That it's a pre like 82 Playmobil. And so we have some like OG Playmobil. Jeez. And so like we grew up playing with them, and the ones that we played with the most were the Western themed ones.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cowboys and Indians, and then they eventually came out with like the Union versus the Confederacy, and like I the more I think about it, my dad like raised us on John Wayne movies,
Yeah,
so
that just made
that's
sense.
just yeah, it totally just made sense with my entire raising that way. Um, and then like as they got older, like there was no women for the first 2 years. It took them 2 years to go through and make like, oh yeah, we should make girls
Yeah,
and kids and babies, and then there could be families. And
yeah,
so like we always like there was always these great like Playmobil catalogs, and they're really like dioramas. Like if you think about the old like shoebox dioramas you were like made back in elementary school,
yep,
that's literally what Playmobil was, except it was all made out of plastic. But you would look in this magazine and it would be like there was a page for knights, and we didn't have that many knights. We had some, but we had like mostly cowboys and Indians, and then there was like Playmobil City, and then there was always like the Playmobil Dollhouse.
mhm.
And now that I have girls, my mother-in-law, and my mom are like, my mom's like, finally I can buy girl Playmobiles.
Yeah,
And so it's like all of this like dollhouse stuff, and it's extremely like detailed. Like
yeah,
even the one like in this classroom set, there's a little it looks like a almost like a pill bug fossil,
okay,
but it's a little mole. It's only like this. It's tiny, but the detail they put into it, and like if you see this textbook on the desk,
yeah,
it actually like has like little pictures and stuff in it that would be, I mean, it looks like a history textbook, not just
yeah,
a book, not just squiggly lines like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah,
right.
wah.
That's funny.
But and then in the 90s, and we actually own this playset for my kids. They started making what was called kind of like how Lego has Duplo.
Yeah,
Playmobil went with what they call Playmobil 1, 2, 3. Essentially, with smaller pieces, the hair doesn't come off like it does on the other ones, so they don't choke on it and all that stuff.
yeah,
But they started making kind of like bigger, chunkier, like fewer parts but bigger pieces, kind of a deal.
right.
And the boat actually floats.
Oh, fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact.
So why
Um,
why is Noah wearing like clothes from the 1800s and not like
because it is a German company.
okay?
Welcome to Dusseldorf. And it's interesting because they, what is it? Zerndorf is like the flagship uh, factory and like production area, kind of where it all started. But they have production facilities in Germany, Malta.
Oh, really, Malta?
Yeah, I've thought of all places, Malta, the Czech Republic, and Spain.
Oh, there you go.
And at 3 of those locations, or no, hold on, they have 4 theme parks. They're
What?
called Lego. They're Playmobil fun parks. There's
Okay.
one in Zerndorf, right next to the production facility. There's one in Malta, next
Okay.
to the production facility, and then there's one in Paris, and there's one in Athens.
Really?
And there used to be one in Florida.
Oh,
But I
where?
mean, like if you think about it, it's like Legoland.
Yeah.
Just they don't have the market share,
Yeah.
so
No kidding.
went away. Um, and so like to wrap it up, like what they've been doing recently, like one of the things that people like in one of the articles, this woman was talking about, like she went to a museum in Germany and like was buying like bought these like Playmobil, brought them home and like said, hey, don't you guys want to play with these? And her kids were like 10 and 12, and they're like, no. Her 10-year-old's like, no, I play with Legos more now because like he's like the pieces are interchangeable and I can build anything I want. He's like with Playmobil, I can't take the wings off the jet and put them on the boat.
Yeah.
You can put the pirate in the airplane or put the pilot on the pirate ship, but
Yeah.
you can't modify like the play sets as much.
Yeah.
So what they've been trying to branch out. And so they've acquired some IPs.
Yeah.
So there's Back to the Future,
Classic.
Ghostbusters,
Yep.
and then How to Train Your Dragon. And the one I didn't take a picture of was Spirit Riding Free, which is about a horse.
The horse
It's
movie.
kind of like, kind of a horse series. And then they also have a licensing deal with the NHL, Porsche, and at one point they were doing like soccer. They made little soccer figurines that would actually have like a kicking motion.
Oh, cool.
But their best-selling figurine, like set, and like
Is
usually you can buy like one figure in a box by himself, and it's only about I mean they're what I say 3 inches tall, so it's like a 3 1/4 inch tall box,
yeah.
by about an inch deep, and it usually has a figure with like a couple of accessories in it. Their number one selling figure of all time. Keep in mind, German company. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's not that guy.
I was like, oh,
It's
okay.
Martin Luther.
There you go.
On the in 2017, on the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation, they came out with a Martin Luther figurine. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger there because it's Martin Luther. You can see his face back there if you're unfamiliar with what he looks like. But they made 34,000 figures in the initial run and sold out in 3 days.
Wow.
And by the summer of that year, they were selling their millionth unit of the Martin Luther. So, I mean, it's just the other thing that stuck with me is the Smithsonian had an article about Playmobil, and they were talking to somebody in Germany about toys and stuff. And the person said, America and Europe have different perspectives when they buy toys. Americans buy toys as a impulse purchase, and they're like, Europeans buy toys as an investment. And they called Playmobil legacy toys because if you can keep all the pieces together, which is a struggle because they have like little, and they're very accurately like molded, like little pistols and stuff. Yeah. If you can keep them, they call them legacy toys.
Because they'll last for.
Compared to America, they say a lot of American toys are landfill toys.
Yeah, they'll break.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, one of my favorite Family Guy jokes is where the Peter's riding up, and it's like the 1700s, and he goes, shouldn't you be working? He goes, no, we're off. It's Martin Luther Day. And he's like, haha. And he's like, that's a very smart joke. So, okay. Well, I don't have as much to talk about because Playmobil has a little bit more. Bandai, basically, so like I kind of ran you up to their first toy and things like that, and they built cars and stuff like that. Later, they will actually launch. They're one of the things they do is they're actually really good at taking heroes that already exist, whether it be film, television, and making characters off of that. So they launched Astro Boy toy. So if you don't know who Astro Boy is, you can look that up. Based off the animated series, and he was the first character. That was in 1963. In the 70s, they partnered with Tonka and made a Japanese Tonka Japan. So a lot of the Tonka toys and things like that. Made models and things like going on from there. They will introduce their first video game in 1985 for NES. And then in the 80s, that's when they really pick up steam, and they'll make things like basically what we know in the States, we would know basically Power Ranger series. And they took part in creating the Power Ranger series. And again, Power Rangers was my favorite growing up. I was a Power Ranger for Halloween one year. We were all Halloween. Ironically, I was not. My favorite Power Ranger was the blue Power Ranger because my favorite dinosaur was the Triceratops. But the ironic part is the black Power Ranger and the African-American Power Ranger. His name was Zach. For some reason, I never latched onto that. But my brother did, and my brother had him because that was the one with the mastodon that would like run around. And I remember in the video game because he would drop like snowy rocks on like the villain, so you wouldn't use your power-up button. Back when video games were a lot simpler, and you were just like, yeah, push, and then the boss died. But anyway, Bandai also made like different games for Super Nintendo and things like that, and have built up since then. They actually have. What I learned though is they've released their custody of Power Rangers. They passed that off. They agreed to mutually not have it. So it was Saban Brands and Bandai US Division mutually agreed to not renew their Power Rangers, and it's been taken over by Hasbro. But Bandai made had a lot of stuff with Sega and built a lot of companies and things like that that go with it. They have dabbled in video games, virtual reality, things like that. So they're continuing. And one of the things is they're actually the third biggest toy maker in the world, and what they bring in every year is around 200. I think it's like $242 billion. Guess how many employees they have for that 242 billion?
50,000.
So it's higher. So yeah, 50,000. It's 180. That's it.
Holy moly! Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, so it's like, holy crap. Like, I don't think you get paid well. I think the company's just rich, but anyways, that was like Bandai. Like, that's why I like jumped out at me. I was like, oh man, Power Rangers would be super cool. So, we are getting ready to shoot kind of our final episodes for the school year. And so what we thought would be kind of fun would be is we were going to recap the school year. But I was thinking about this as we're recording, Barker. What do you think about like throwing out like an Instagram like and Facebook poll and letting people just ask us like questions about history? So it's not topics, just ask us a question, and then we could just go down these lists of questions and give shout outs to people and stuff like that.
Yeah, we could do that. Like a Q&A.
Yeah, basically.
Episode. I like it. We'll see if we get anything.
Yeah. Throw it out. But yeah, I mean, it was really fun to like research toys and stuff like that. And like, to give you guys an example, so Barker came to me and basically said like, hey, let's do some of these. We want to do something more upbeat because obviously the world right now is pretty rough, no matter which way you slice it. And we basically said, let's do something upbeat. So Barker had brought up like, let's talk about toys. And I was like, yes, like I'm all about that. And so he brought up Playmobil. And all I could think about was Legos, and I did all my research on Legos, and I was like, Legos is awesome. But then I was like, why would I compare Playmobil and Legos? Like, let's not do that. So then I looked up Nerf. Nerf is not as exciting as you think it would be. So basically, it led us to me to Bandai, and I had a good time doing this. So anything you want to add?
Hans Beck, the guy who invented Playmobil, there's a great quote. They were like, what makes it such... They said, the owner said, give me something that has the maximum play value with the least amount of plastic. And he said by building things that 3-inch tall so that kids could manipulate it with their hands. What did he say? It said it must be done with Fingerspitzengefühl, which in German apparently, and my German's probably terrible, translate to an instinctive feeling just to like, manipulate and play. But because of Playmobil's, I guess, kind of like place in the world, in the World Expo in 2000 in Hanover, he was recognized as one of the top 100 people from Germany to have a positive impact on, like, from Germany to the world. Because again, over 100 countries, they distribute Playmobil to over 100 countries from Germany. So it's kind of like, if it weren't for those darn yellow block-headed people. And they just released a Playmobil movie last year, which apparently was terrible.
Just flopped.
Just terrible. And the people were like, it was very clearly trying to be the Lego movie, and just swung and missed. So, I mean, it's kind of the life of Playmobil. But I grew up playing with them. Like I said, my mom and dad still have a box of Playmobil at home. And so it really is that legacy toy. They're really sturdy. They're really hardy. I think we only ever maybe broke one figure out of like the 60 we probably own.
Yeah.
Compared to the G.I. Joes that died valiantly in the firing squad. But
kidding. Well, it was like, and that was like going back to like my Power Ranger stuff. Like these Power Ranger models. So like these would basically, what they would do is, like, you can see like above my head, like what would happen is these would be how they would stand. And then on the back, you could like push a button and they would flip, and their face shield, their helmet would come on. And I remember that it only worked for so long. And then I remember when I got older and it wasn't necessary, and I found it, I was like trying to make it so their heads would like be balanced. Like they'd have two heads like out their body and stuff like that to try and figure it out. But yeah, those things did not last as long. So especially like when my brother picked them up and threw them, or my sister picked them up and threw them because I was being a butt. So, but anyway, until next time, I'm Turn.
I'm the Bark.
And we're going to be here a long time. School year's almost over. Stay strong. Make sure you participate. Engage you with your teachers. Get that A, right? And let's move on from this. So have a good night, everybody.
Be safe.
And be well.